All right, guys, you should pull out your text. It's a letter from Michael Bennett, who is a football player for the Seattle Seahawks. And recently, at the end of August, he had an altercation with some police officers in Las Vegas. And this is a letter that he posted to his public Twitter account, kind of to discuss what happened to him. And so when you read this, I really want you to think about some of the places where he doesn't come right out and say what he means, but we still understand what he's meaning. So I want you to put that inference into play. All right, if I write something down on the screen, I want you to write it down as well. Dear World, on Saturday, August 26, 2017, I was in Las Vegas to attend the Mayweather-McGregor fight on my day off. After the fight, while heading back to my hotel, several hundred people heard what sounded like gunshots. Like many of the people in the area, I ran away from the sound, looking for safety. Las Vegas police officers singled me out and pointed their guns at me for doing nothing more than simply being a black man in the wrong place at the wrong time. So this is one of those places. I'm going to underline this line here. Oh, sorry guys for my terrible handwriting. Oops. Let's make that a stronger line. Whoa. Let's try that again. All right. Las Vegas police officers singled me out and pointed their guns at me for doing nothing more than simply being a black man in the wrong place at the wrong time. So he's not coming right out and saying that the officers are racist, right? But that's what I figure out. And the reason I know that is because he talks about his race, that he's a black man, and that he felt singled out. And then I take this knowledge that I know of things that have been happening in our world over the past several years in the news about black men being targeted by the police for doing absolutely nothing wrong. So what I think he's really trying to tell us here is that the Las Vegas police were racially profiling us, or they were being racist to him. A police officer ordered me to get on the ground. As I laid on the ground complying with his commands to not move, he placed his gun near my head and warned me that if I moved he would blow my head off. Terrified and confused by what was taking place, a second officer came over and forcefully jammed his knee into my back, making it difficult for me to breathe. They then cinched the handcuffs on my wrists so tight that my fingers went numb. Oh my gosh. All right. So here he's got a gun near his head. He's terrified and confused. He's got this guy's knee jammed into his back. Right? The handcuffs are so tight that his fingers are going numb. I can't imagine what that would feel like, but I'm trying to think here from this that he had to be not just scared, but feel totally out of control, right? He's being held back, right? He can't move, he can't breathe, he can't move his hands, right? So I think here that he's telling us how out of control he feels, that really his life is in the hands of these police officers, right? Because they could blow his head off at any moment. So his life is totally at the mercy of these cops. The officer's excessive use of force was unbearable. I felt helpless as I lay there on the ground, handcuffed, facing the real-life threat of being killed. All I could think was, I'm going to die for no other reason than I'm black and my skin color is somehow a threat. My life flashed before my eyes as I thought of my girls. Would I ever play with them again, or watch them have kids, or be able to kiss my wife again and tell her that I love her? Oh. I'm going to underline this part too. My eyes as I thought of my girls. So right before this is all happening, he's thinking of his daughters, right? He's thinking, will he get to see his daughters grow up? Will he ever get to kiss his wife again? Right? So I see him here thinking of his family. That shows me how important they are, that potentially his last thoughts are of his family. I kept asking the officers, what did I do? And reminding them that I had rights they were duty-bound to respect. The officers ignored my pleas and instead told me to shut up and then took me back to a nearby police car where I sat for what felt like an eternity until they apparently realized I was not a thug, common criminal, or ordinary black man, but Michael Bennett, a famous professional football player. After confirming my identity, I was ultimately released without any legitimate justification for the officers' abusive conduct. one thing I see here when he says, what did I do? That he had rights, right? And that they ultimately let him go without any legitimate justification. Even though he doesn't tell me, I'm totally innocent, they had no right to do this. That's what I figure out there, because he's kind of surprised, like what's happening here, and he doesn't understand. So I infer from this that he feels like he's innocent, that he hasn't done anything wrong. I've always held a strong conviction that protesting or standing up for justice is just simply the right thing to do. It's his duty. It's what you should do. This fact is unequivocally, without question, why before every game I sit during the national anthem. Because equality doesn't live in this country, and no matter how much money you make, what job title you have, or how much you give, when you are seen as, you will be treated that way. Wow, this is a really powerful part, right? So he says this has nothing to do necessarily with what happened to him. He says that he sits down during the national anthem because he doesn't think, right, equality doesn't live in this country. So he protests by not standing for the national anthem. But I also kind of wonder, is there some way that this letter in and of itself is also a protest, right? That he is powerful, he is wealthy, he is famous, but even though he has all of these things, he's still treated that way, right? And so maybe he's using this as his opportunity to speak out and say, there is no equality in our world. The system failed me. I can only imagine what Eric Garner, Michael Brown, Trayvon Martin, Tamir Rice, and Charlena Lyles felt. I've retained Oakland civil rights attorney John Burris to investigate and explore all my legal options, including filing a civil rights lawsuit for the violation of my constitutional rights. Sincerely, Michael Bennet. All right, so it looks like he's not going to quit here. He's going to go forward and kind of investigate and explore all of his options, right, to make sure that the people who did this to him are held accountable. All right, now that you've read this and you understand what he's saying, and this is a really powerful piece of him stating a belief that he has. Here's an experience that happened to him and what he believes was done to him in the wrong way, and how he's going to use this letter to speak out, right? So this is him speaking out for his beliefs that there is no equality in America, right, based off of this experience that happened to him. But now that you've done that, what I want you to do is take out your graphic organizer. All right, so what you're going to see is what the text says. This is going to be our explicit evidence, the stated evidence from the text. So here, I want to see word for word what the text says. Then it says what I know. That's going to be your background information, what you know about the world and the way it works. And then what you infer. That's going to be what do you think, based off of what the text says and what you know, what do you think he's really trying to say? That's going to be that implied message. So I've kind of bounced this around. Here I've given you a quote. Las Vegas police officers singled me out and pointed their guns at me for doing nothing more than simply being a black man in the wrong place at the wrong time. Tell me what you know about race in America and what you infer here about what he's saying. But then on this next one, I've given you the inference. Michael Bennett's family is one of the most important things to him. Find some text that shows you that. All right, tell me what you know and how you made that inference that his family must be really important to him, because he says this and I know this, therefore. All right, here I've given you another quote. I kept asking the officers, what did I do? All right, You'll put what do you know and therefore what do you infer? And then our last one, the inference I've made here, Michael Bennet is using his fame as a football player to stand up to the corruption of the Las Vegas PD. He knows that not everyone's able to bring such attention to the issue, and he feels like it's his duty to do so. Where in the text does he imply that? What do you know from the real world about Michael Bennet or about racism in America that helps you understand that he is using his fame and this letter to take a stand for something that he believes passionately in, that these police should not have abused their rights against him? All right, so complete this and then you can move on to the next step.